Hi guys, what are we gonna do today? Today we're gonna make this really cute advent. You're gonna see how simple this is. And these bags are not expensive, but they turn out so adorable. Let's get started. So these are some of the things that you're gonna need to do this project. And when you see how we use them, you can say, oh gosh, I'd rather use this or this, but you'll see why we're using these items. I had a large board, and it's about 33 by 18 inches, but you can use anything that you would like to use for your initial surface to work on. Wooden spools. If you could find 25 that are about the same size, that works the best. I'm using this decoupage paper. This is a Roycycled. Liberty and Union. I loved it because it still has all the ticking. Even with this on here, because I have so much on the board, it looked really fun and very farmhouse with all the ticking and the weaving. But if you want to, you could just paint your background and not do any decoupage at all. I use this bronze transfer, and I use a lot of the leafy greens, and I am using my Merry and Bright Christmas stamp. And what I did is used every one of these large elements. I also used just a few pieces out of this and the bags, just tea bags. And in the description of the video, you're gonna see a link, and it goes to my favorite things. I had gotten these on Amazon, and I'm also using a little ruler for the base of the tree. So I'm gonna show you what I did to this board. I'm not actually going to re-decoupage a piece of paper. If you see my other videos, you'll see how simple that really is. So I painted the top of this large board white just to give it a little more brightness underneath, and I put my Liberty and Union over this. And you can see now that it actually is covering. I took this ruler and used it for my base, and I also distressed that. I glued that down first so I knew it would fit right there. What I found worked the best was to take my wooden spools and put them on before I do the rest of my embellishing so I could work around that. So I picked 25 wooden spools that I had. I took all my wooden spools, and I'm using my Distress Oxide Vintage Photo. Just rubbed it over the top and the sides, and took a paintbrush with water and just rubbed it, and it made them darker. So when these were pretty much dry, I just used my Type Bond, and I put it on the bottom of this, and I stuck them down. You may have a little that comes out the edges, but it dries clear. You really want these to be secure. So this next part is kind of important. You have your 25 spools set aside. You're going to measure. Depending on the bag you're gonna use is what size you want in between. If you're going to use these tea bags, 3.5 inches from the end of this spool to the beginning of this spool. Starting at the bottom worked better. And I knew this is my first line. 2 fingers in between each. You can decide how far or close you want them depending on what board you're using and what bags you're using. You have 7 in this bottom row, 6, 5, 4, and 3. First one goes in between these two. This one goes in between these two, all the way down. And the further up you go, this one lines up exactly with this one, and with this one, and here we go. And then the next row is the same thing. So you can line these up really, really nicely that way. And measure about 2 inches from hole to hole, and glue these down. Your next row is about 3.5 inches up. Lay your ruler down again and glue these down. You can even eyeball that. In between these two down here, you want them in between so they're offset. So you almost like have a triangle here. You get to the next row, and these two are gonna be straight across from each other. So you do that, and then the next row, and then your last row. So when you've had them all glued down and they are dry, you can start doing your embellishing of the board, because you're gonna be able to see where these spools are, where you have room. So now you can see where I use my bronze transfer. I cut the 2 large fern pieces down the center, and I put them on one side here and one side here. I used the Merry Christmas from the figgy pudding. I added some more greenery, and then the bow out of the figgy pudding. That just tied it all in, so I had a little bit of red. Now this, you're wondering, oh my gosh, we can't get that transfer anymore. Actually, this was the cardboard from the transfer from last year. So you could even find a beautiful red bird or whatever color you're using if you wanted to. And I just glued him close to the top of the spool just so I had a little red tying in. And that's just how I did this. But you could experiment, use what you've got, and just make it really, really fun. So now let's get to how we did these bags. Okay, so these are our tea bags that we are using. These are just paper tea bags. So you do want to be careful with them when you are painting on them. You want everything to line up on your board. Make sure your strings are either all on the right side or all on the left side, because I am just painting the front of these. I'm using my DIY crinoline paint, and I'm using a lot of water with it. Get my brush really, really wet. Put it in my paint. There are two ways. I just took a piece of plastic and stuck it inside and painted it and then pulled the plastic out. And this worked almost easier. I just kind of put my hand in here. You can wear gloves if you want, or just do them all at one time and then you're done and wash your hands, because you don't want these stuck together. So what I'm gonna do is open this up a tad bit, and I'm gonna take my heat gun. Now my hand is in here. Now you don't want to keep your heat gun on there so long that you feel the heat on your finger. Just a few seconds enough to get the outside just a little drier. Then what I did is I just opened it up. And it's dry. And I just set them all aside and get them all done. And if they're even damp a little, they should be completely dry by the time you're all done. So I'm going to stamp onto the front of these. My cord is to the right again on my side, so I'm going to keep them all that way. I'm using my brayer, and I'm using the Merriam Bright stamp, and I'm going to do 3 of 7 of them and 4 of 1 of them. I'm using 8 of the different stamps that are in here. They may go over a little, but I didn't mind that at all. I'm using black ink. You could use whatever color you would like. And I'm just going to center this on here. Bring it a little further down, because I know the bag at the top is going to get squished, so you won't see as much. Now the center I am leaving open because I'm going to put my numbers in there. I used a lot of the number transfers on several of these, but if you don't have that, because I did run out of a few of the numbers, I used a stamp and a transfer, or just stamps on them for the numbers. From my expirations transfer, I had a few numbers left, so I think I'm going to do number 20. I'm going to use my O in the transfer for my 0. And this is just kind of a fun way to use up scraps and bits and pieces. Since I don't have any 2s, I'm just going to stamp the 2. So I have number 20. So now I am going to use my crackle stamp, and I'm using gray. I usually seem to use either a brown or a gray or a lighter color for the crackle. I don't want it to be as intense as the original image that's on here, so it doesn't take away, but it's enough that it adds something to that. I'm going to find a little piece of transfer because I want some red or green popping out on all of these that tie the whole piece together. With my figgy pudding transfer, there are so many cute little wreaths and things. All I needed was to cut a little sprig of each one, and that's what I put on here. And I'm just going to put this on and add maybe a couple little berries. And it's enough, it's just going to give it a little bit of color to add and pull it all together with what we have on the board. So I'm going to use my distressing ink, and now what's fun on this is if you go across the cord, you're going to see where the cord is. This is Vintage Photo. I'm going to put a little water over this just to spread some of the distressing and even it all out. And this is really just your preference on what you like. Dry this off, and then we are going to wax it. So for this project, I'm using wax. I'm just using a clear wax, and I'm going over all of my bags. Before I put all of these on the board, I actually waxed the whole board. And there we go. What a cute little bag. So when your bags are completely dry, we're going to tie them onto our spools. You can see this one may look a little darker because I used the water on it after I antiqued it. I don't believe I did do the water on these ones. I think I just put the wax on. So they are a little aged, just not this dark. So depending on the look you want. You're going to take your tea bag and just wrap it around and tie it one time. and close it as much as you would like it closed after you get your goodies in. Then you will lay it over your spool and tie a bow at the top. And that holds them in there nicely. You guys, wasn't this easy? Isn't this simple? So whether you do a whole board or you just do the cute bags and hang them on something, hope you guys try this out. But whatever you do, have fun.